This episode of Discuss Metal was recorded live on May 14th, 2022. Defeating elitism and gatekeeping in metal. This is the Discuss Metal podcast, hosted by Dan Terry and Joseph Wren. Presented by discussmetal.com. Coming to you in sweet 1080p.
Wow, that's both at the same time. So cool.
That's great, a lot of pixels.
Great start off. Hey, you know what, though? This is super live, so we're going to act like live people. Joe's got a soundboard, so I'm not really sure what's going to happen tonight. So thanks to everybody that's tuning in. I know it's like nobody right now, but hopefully it will be somebody, later on. So if you've got nothing else to do, then strap in, because we have got some stuff to talk about tonight. We've got conspiracy theories. We've got metal elitism. We've got gatekeeping. We've got some sad Black Dahlia murder news, which is probably not news to anybody because it's been widely publicized and we had to wait till Friday to do this. So here we are. How's everybody doing tonight?
Yo, buddy, how are you doing?
Living it.
What's going on?
I mean, I'm on the right side of the grave, so that's good, right?
That depends on what kind of black metal you listen to.
That's true. Hey, there you go.
100%. Well, tonight we have a bit of a discussion topic, but I think Joe wanted to spice it up a little bit. So, what did you want to start with, Joe, or do you want us to get into the really serious stuff right now?
I mean, I had a less serious topic before Dan came at me with a serious topic. Guys, I want to talk about gatekeeping and elitism and metal, and we're going to get Rance, we're going to get Mike in here. It's going to be some real metal shit.
If people see me and they go, that guy's metal.
I'm always looking for something fun to talk about, so we all play games, right?
Sure.
We all listen to metal, right?
Yeah, dude.
Yep.
Flashing back to last month.
Sometimes I browse a website called Metal Sucks because I think Metal Sucks is just a really cool name for a website. And they happen to have this article, the 13 incarnations of Jason Voorhees, ranked by how metal they are.
When did they post that? How quickly after we did our video last month did they post this? Are they ripping us off?
I wouldn't have stopped here. I wouldn't have looked at it for a second. But they have the Friday the 13th NES game in here.
And which, you know what? I go on record right now and say that game was great. So many people hated that game, but I liked it. LJN really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, they did.
It's open world.
They tried.
It's so immersive.
I mean, do you guys think that horror movie villains are metal? I think they are by design.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Look at Hellraiser, or what's his name? This whatever that guy's name is.
You can say Hellraiser. It's fine.
Pinhead, right?
Head
That's
pin.
metal.
Yeah.
Is this a Hellraiser? Who's the guy with the nails? Is this a Hellraiser? Hello?
Can somebody get us a hammer?
Hello? He needs to have either a hammer or a nail puller. He looks like he's in a horrible pain.
What do you
Jesus
mean it's
Christ.
not hands that call you? I use my hands to dial the phone.
Well,
All right, we going through this list?
Who is it?
You want to go through the list? All right.
Let's go through the list. Let's see what Metal Sucks
all right.
opinion is. Okay. Disqualified. Imitation Jason. Yeah, I agree with this one, I think.
Yeah.
Child
In case
Jason
anybody doesn't
from the
know,
first
that's
one.
I'm going to spoil a movie that's like 1 billion years old. Everybody's running from Jason and people are getting killed, but it's not really Jason. They cheaped out. I don't know if they couldn't afford Jason or what the deal was.
Norman
but,
Bates it, dude.
They did 100%.
Like how they have that child Jason is even on this list. Like that suggests he's just a little bit metal.
He's the bottom of the list, though. We're saying he's the least metal, including the guy with the bag on his head.
Yeah, I mean, I would say
Friday the 13th too. I think that was.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not buying it.
Yeah, I'm not digging that one, especially since he'd be more metal because most of us got into metal when we were kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get into more of that in the elitism conversation.
All right. We're going with Dream Jason from Freddy vs. Jason.
God, that movie is that old? It's 20 years old?
Oh my God.
And it's still fucking good.
Joe and I saw that in the theater. I feel
Me
really
too.
old right now.
Watch that.
God, I forgot. Jesus, it's that old. Holy hell.
Rance, are you having flashbacks? Do I need to bring back Movie Mosh and we need to watch this movie?
So
I'm down. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, well, it's good for 2003 me. Like, I don't think I've seen it since then. Is it still good?
It's amazing.
I think if you like the Friday the 13th movies and you like the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, you will still like that movie. It was like one of the last greats.
Yeah, temper your expectations, right? Just go into it like that's one of those things. Like, come on, Roger Ebert, like just fucking stop. Just temper your expectations. Go have a good time.
It's not a horror movie. It's a wrestling match.
We're having, I mean, you know what? These are the same guys that are like, they say this sucks. They're like, yeah, dude, I watched WrestleMania last week. It was fucking awesome. It's like, well, okay, just chill, just relax. Let's watch
Friday the 13th. I only came here for the Lamb of God song on the soundtrack.
Yeah, I waited the whole time for that fucking slapper. That was great. I was crushing PBR cans on my skull and just fucking really speaks to me. Some sort of primal 7th grade just
the end of all progress.
I don't even want to move on.
Wait, there was a Friday the 13th 2009. Did they how did I just miss that?
It was remade.
You didn't know they remade it?
Wait a minute, that was how old the reboot was?
That's right. That's
yeah, dude.
Oh my God.
That was composite Jason. I haven't seen this movie in a while. Did they put parts of him back together?
I just thought they hooked him up through an NES. Isn't that what a composite Jason is?
As opposed to coaxial, like a HDMI Jason, right?
Yeah, definitely. Or what, DVI cable Jason?
That's a fucking terrible dad joke. Jesus Christ. Feel free to boo me in the comments, please, if you thought that was a horrible dad joke.
Oh, amazing.
All right, we're in the top 10. What do you guys think number 9 is?
I bet it's the video game. But it's one from the video because I can see it. Yeah. I cheated a bit. I cheated a little bit.
But what were all of the zombies from in that game? Do you guys remember all those Friday the 13th movies where zombies came out from Crystal Lake and
came from the imagination of a very unusual programmer, right?
I mean, is this one of those cases where it's a totally different game in Japan and they just added Jason in? Where they're like, here's just put the mask on this character because it plays kind of like Goonies 2.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Ben.
Although that moment at the very beginning where the knife flies down and impales the eyeballs in the Jason mask, that's metal as shit.
It's
incredible. Yeah,
scare the shit out of me when you start that thing up.
Yeah, I know. You're like, oh god, somebody help me. First hockey mask, Jason.
And that's only number 8.
Now you see why I'm losing confidence in this list.
Right,
I am. Yeah,
that should just naturally hit a 3 at least.
Yeah, I'll give you 4.
That guy, the Jason on the left in that thumbnail. Does anybody else think he looks like somebody who you'd absolutely run into at a terror or Madball show? Those fucking neck veins, dude. Jesus Christ! That's that guy has more than one Madball T-shirt and Doc Martens. I guarantee it.
That guy still goes into the mosh pit with a face mask on.
Yeah, dude. He's you got to keep it alive, right?
He seems more like a terror guy to me.
Terror? Yeah.
Yeah.
No less Doc Martens and more fucking tribal tattoos.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Yeah, some disgusting dreads.
Terror's still pretty
falling
OG.
off his back.
I'm still locked in on this Mad Balls t-shirt.
Yeah, dude. He's got a couple of them. Look at this fucking neck. Look at his neck veins. I mean, dude, if I had that guy's fucking swole.
That guy looks like he's taking a dump all the time.
Yeah. Oh, okay. What else we got on this list? I want to get through this. This is eating up too much of my serious video.
See, disfigured Jason from Friday the 13th Part 4.
I don't even remember that. At this point, it's all just a blur in my skull.
I think
I don't remember half of these movies. Were they real movies? Did they exist? Can you watch 2 full hours on each of these?
At least an hour and a half. It's an 80s horror slasher film.
I haven't watched most of these since they were on VHS at my local Blockbuster.
I haven't watched these since there was only 7 Friday the 13th.
I just haven't watched these.
I haven't watched these since I tried to tape over them with some of that weird porn my dad had.
Scramble porn. Oh my God, scramble.
It gives a whole new definition to disfigured Jason.
Yes, it's metal as fuck.
Jason X Jason is pretty fucking metal.
Top 3, I would say.
I agree. Yeah.
Dude, New Blood Jason's like a Guar member, dude. That's pretty fucking sick.
Dude, Tom Savini Jason from the new Friday the 13th game, which is just the NES game in 3D.
Basically.
It's a little different than that.
But the most metal on the list, double zombie Jason.
The double zombie Jason,
who looks like a Madball,
yeah.
ironically enough.
It's probably it's the same guy, right? So like we can still keep the Madball going. Wow, yeah, this is man, yeah, he does look like like they said in the article, he does look kind of like Iron Maiden's Eddie.
It's a cross between like Eddie, a Madball, and a guy wearing those Bubba teeth you could buy at like Phillips 66. You know what I mean?
I always remember though the guy who played him in Jason X, and like he did 1 or 2 movies before him, was Kane Hodder, and like thought he was
Kane's the man.
He was so metal that he got the word "kill" tattooed on the inside of his lip.
Oh God!
Is that either metal or shit? I don't know.
So does he just walk around with his lip out? Or it's like,
no, guys see my tattoo.
You get a tattoo for it to be seen, right? Like,
so what's the double zombie Jason? That's the one from New Blood, the Madball Bubba teeth. What's down below? I want to see what they call it, the most metal.
That is the most metal.
Is that it?
That's the one.
Yeah. I mean, they kind of work their way backwards on this, and you're saying Demon Jason is number 2. I don't agree at all. Zombie Jason, I'll give you that for top 5.
Yeah.
Tom Savini's design from the game. Yeah, I mean, he's pretty fucking metal. He looks like a Slipknot character.
Yeah, he looks like something that would be on the new Disturbed album cover.
Yeah, dude. I would have drawn that in 7th grade, dude, listening to fucking Prayer by Disturbed, dude, right?
No, so here's
Destructible.
No one put one of those like fucking awesome like S's on that fucking mask.
Oh hell yeah! Right on the head.
Right on the fucking forehead, dude. There you go. That's fucking sick.
So here's a transition for you. If us saying that somebody that looks like a member of Slipknot is super metal, if that statement triggers you, then this episode is for you. It goes out to you. Elitism and metal, right? It's a kind of a generalized term. Elitism and gatekeeping, and this is something that we're going to talk about before the unfortunate passing of Trevor from Black Dahlia murder. And so, I mean, obviously that's like definitely starting things off on a low note, but the only reason I'm bringing this into, into elitism and gatekeeping is, some asshat made a video about like how it's cool that Trevor committed suicide, basically is what he's saying, and that he's more metal than like the dude from Atheist. I'm not going to say the guy's name. You can find his video if you want, but we're not really going to make this about him. But like it stood out to me as how far is too far, as far as becoming a elitist, especially the big question being, what is it about metal, like heavy music, that creates this sort of circle jerk of guys trying to be like, and it's mostly guys. I mean, I'll just say it, like it's mostly dudes, maybe not exclusively, but they're just like heavier than thou, more knowledgeable than thou, and these guys tend to lean towards they're not my opinion. They're not my opinions. They're objective facts when comparing quality, right? I just kind of want to get into a discussion about that because, like, and I'm going to say it outright. I definitely was one of those guys, and sometimes still am. Like, I don't chase people down in the street, name 3 songs, or anything like that. But if you go back and listen to, like, I don't know, like the first year of discography discussion, you would catch me saying things like, "This music's only for 13-year-old girls," or or I would say like, well, I'm not going to take any advice from a Limp Bizkit fan.
You're not a real girl gamer.
Yeah. Mike's like, he was listening to Limp Bizkit at his desk earlier today. What are you talking about?
That happened.
We were rock and rolling really, really hard. But yeah, so I guess, we try to do these as round tables we can to give everybody a chance to kind of give their take on it. But what do you guys think elitism in metal is? And I'll go last.
I'm going to kick this one off.
All right.
It is not uncommon, regardless of your recreational activity, to have a group mentality, a brotherhood mentality. I've heard it called a lot of different things, but everybody with similar interests tend to come together. And whether they set out to form a club and have rules or expectations, there's always natural occurring things that become the baseline of can you be in our club or not? And I think metal, like many genres of music, sets its own prerequisites. When you come to me and say, I'm a fan of metal, I like all things heavy metal and rock, I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite band? I may not realize I'm doing it, but I'm looking for one of those bands at the top of my list because I want to see not only do we mesh together, but I'm also looking for you to not be talking about the newest band that just came out, because there's no way that band is at the top tier of metal. And I think that is the natural way fan bases develop. So it makes sense when you take that so far through time, decades, everything goes to the extreme. You don't just have new fans, but you have 10-year fans, 15-year fans, 20-year fans, 40-year fans who won't even discuss the possibility that there has been a better guitarist since Jimi Hendrix. And that's where it comes from. It doesn't occur on purpose. I think the interesting question is, how does it get taken to an extreme? But I want to save that until you guys get to your side of it.
Mike, you want to go next? You want me to go next?
I don't know. I got a pretty different take on that. So I think it does develop on purpose, right? I think it's a bunch of like seriously like autistic man children who like got bullied a lot, right? And they have these weird interests they were like made fun of for and probably socially ostracized. I mean, I've just described myself to an extent. So they get involved with this community of people, just like you said, Joe. But what winds up happening is it's some sort of like retribution. They're taking it out on other people. Like, oh no, you can't do that. I'm obviously superior, because it's something they have a little bit of agency in. You see what I'm saying? Like it's the one thing probably in their lives they have agency in, and so they make it some sort of like unbelievably personal quest of one-upsmanship or some sort of other bullshit, as opposed to just being like, hey, I like this, because of. I think, I like fucking Arch Enemy because there's some ripping guitar solos, and there's nothing objective with those types of people. Everything is like just, it's this giant race to the bottom of people trying to like establish an identity or their self-worth on something just so fucking stupid and for the dumbest reasons. So I think it's intentional, and I think it's kind of like what you see in like miniatures or D&D or anything else like that. There's shout out Warhammer. Holy shit.
I was just thinking that too. Mike.
Whoa, boy. That I'll tell you what, that's you go to like your local game store during Warhammer night, and it's like it's like walking into a circus.
You didn't paint your whole fucking army, you son of a bitch.
You used matte. You didn't use a clear like a poly finish on that.
Get him out of here.
Get out of here.
Anyway, my point is like it's people who, instead of developing a personality in high school like everybody else, they use like some sort of goods or some sort of like other shit to like hobble them along, right? It's way easier to identify with this pack mentality around a certain object or certain thing, as opposed to like, taking the time to be a normal person, develop your own personality and interests, and to know when to defend those and when to just be like, yeah, it's cool that you like music too, man. I appreciate that about you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually, Mike. I'm sort of echoing what you said there. In my own experience too, it was always that, right? It was always like trying to find for people who didn't really have much of an identity to discover one, and also discover a sense of companionship with others at a time where it actually really wasn't easy. Like, I was getting to metal in the late '90s, early 2000s, and it's not like you could go on and go. Yeah, you could go on the internet, but you just didn't. To find people who were into metal. And so it was you, your friends, you went to clubs, you saw these shows, and it was always this constant one-upsmanship. Like, I know for a fact there was a point at which I was like that too. It's like, okay, I'm going to say I got to go see this band, that I got to do this, I got to go see this group. And after a while, it more becomes about your own personal status and image than it does about how much you're actually liking the music. Christ, there were plenty of times that I went to go see bands that I actually sort of hated, that I admittedly didn't like in the metal scene, just because I wanted to be that guy who was like, that I got to see this band. I got to go see Zyklon B with Samoth, right? Like, did it matter?
Yeah, I went to see Voivod back when they were cool.
Exactly,
fuck you, man. Voivod sucks. Fucking poser. That's not grim like cult shit.
This social economy within a very small and tight scene.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, case in point, right? I went to a rural high school in the middle of like central Illinois, right? With like the town had 5,000 people, the school had 600 kids. So like more to my point earlier, like, do you think I was popular in that area because I liked Emperor and Dimmu Borgir? Fuck no. So you're faced with this existential crisis, right? You either have to develop a personality and connect to others on, their level,
an emotional level.
Yeah, on an actual, goddamn, you want to grow up a little bit, right? Or you could it's way easier to retreat into this like dark corner of your own interests and surround yourself in an echo chamber of other people that are like-minded, and then just turn that into some sort of pseudo personality and use that as like a fucking, that's your flag you plant in the ground, right? No man may cross that line. It's a cop out. It's just, I think it's just people being weak-minded.
What do you think, Dan?
Well,
Dan, you got feelings?
I'm probably the more, I'm probably the most elitist out of everyone. But basically, wow, close up. Oh boy, here we go. You can see all my CDs behind me, right? CDs, they sound better than vinyl. Anybody who listens to vinyl is just jumping on a trend, and they're all wrong. I actually do believe that to a certain degree. But anyway,
oh my god,
I know, right? Oh,
I only etch my music onto ceramic tubes.
So I actually like the original record, which is just I have a special, anyway, I don't even know what those are called. I guess they're still called record players, but anyway. I started off getting into heavy music in new metal bands, right? Like, I liked I liked Korn and Slipknot and Limp Bizkit and all the bands that everybody liked, whenever they were kids, and did not understand that they were being mass marketed to. Like, when you're a kid, you don't know that you're part of a demographic, right? You don't know that you're being catered
Focus
to.
group.
But like, eventually you're going to hear a band that's going to just rip that veil right off your eyes, And like, for me, that band was, Zayo. And where I was like, okay, so this is that real raw shit, right? And so I was like, really into that. And then I was like, okay, what? So if Zayo's what my introduction was, how do I go heavier?
Mm-hmm.
And for years and years, it was like porn. You guys were talking about, internet, going on the internet in the 90s or whatever. One of the biggest things that was giant, and I might be dating myself here, but one of the biggest things in music discussion back when I first started going online was message boards, independent, the blackest, darkest cult or the Tomb Vault or whatever, like all these places. This is like kind of before everybody just went to Metal Archives or the forums at darklyrics.com.
Real metal shit.
Real. Well, I remember
metal shit.
I remember when I was going to, I went on a forum and I had just started listening to this tooth and nail band called Dead Poetic. And now keep in mind, I didn't know anything about anything. Okay. I just knew that they had screaming, like kind of like Zayo, but then like melodic, like emo singing. But like none of those terms existed in my brain. And I remember going on the forum and being like, I'm really into this metal band called Dead Poetic. And I mean, I got it was a message board, but I feel like I was audibly laughed out of the forum, just like, what the fuck are you even talking about? There's no metal influence in this. This is not metal at all. Now those guys were not like wrong necessarily. They were actually, yeah. So like, there's different ways to do it. But like, so, I deleted that post and that thread so that nobody could ever see the sin that I had committed. And I did my best for years and years and years to blend in with those guys. And, back then, you go on mp3.com, you try to find the heaviest, most brutal band in the entire world. And then like, one of my favorite things to do was to show bands to people just to see what their reactions were. Your boss is driving your boss is driving the car, right? You guys have to go to an important meeting. So you put on like, oh my God, Meat Hook Sodomy by
Devious Anal
Corpse.
Fisting. Yeah, dude.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you put that on and you just kind of look at dude's face just to see like how they're going to react the entire.
Bob, if you like Coldplay, you're going to love Brutal Anal Fisting.
So, yeah. So this one's called
I love Sperm Swamp.
Yeah. Like this guy is all, this guy's going to love Reek of Putrefaction. You know what I mean? He's going to love it. This song's called Genital Grinder. Check it out, And so, yeah, I did a lot of that stuff. And yeah, so I was also like really religious back then too, which is something that is also part of this. So like, but I was trying to find the heaviest bands, but then I was also trying to find like the heaviest Christian bands too. So that like they added another layer to the elitism. And I think it actually made it worse in a way because it was so underground, right? It was so cult. It was so elitist. It was
it's
so
real underground.
I mean, it really is, because metal fan, general market metal fans, they don't want to hear
I guess
about
you're
that.
right.
Your average Burzum fan, what is he gonna say about Horde or Antestor? You know what I mean? Like, he's not gonna like it. He's not gonna be into it, and he's gonna actually be straight up militantly against it.
Would you say that this kind of like natural elitism and gatekeeping that occurs within a fan base, that in a way fed back into metal and like poisoned it in a way? Like, I think about bands like the one I just mentioned. It was literally a joke among friends when I was younger. A band like Sperm Swamp, who literally every one of their songs is just legit garbage, but that it is sort of bred in this edgelord kind of like, oh yeah, people are going to buy this and listen to it because it's just sort of stupidly edgy. And we talk about like one of their albums is it's a unfortunate approach to a topic that's on everybody's minds right now. One of the albums is called "If Abortion is a Murder, Masturbation is a Genocide." And it's like these guys are just trying to say the most edgelord ass like shit, because somewhere out there somebody's going, "This is the edgiest shit I've ever fucking heard," and that makes it metal. So like, in a way, that the elitism from the fans feeds back into the music itself.
I think it does too. I think that is where you get the bands that are always trying to outdo one another.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Once you get into like Infant Annihilator territory, where it's like no one's ever going to go as far as we have, and then somebody goes further, right? Like, I made a joke list a long time ago for me and Joe's old website that was like, if this band uses knives, you use guns. If they use guns, you use a gun that shoots chainsaws, right? Like it always goes. That's where I kind of come with the porn comparison, where it's like, it's got to be heavier, it's got to be brutal, it's got to be more offensive. And I think Mike is onto something too, where it's like, that's easier to latch onto, I think. And I fell victim to this. Yeah. That's easier to latch onto than actually having an opinion about anything, because like, most people that go on this sort of journey into this kind of music are usually doing it pretty early in life, doing it, as teenagers. I bet you guys didn't know this was going to turn into a "those damn kids these days" conversation. But it's definitely not kids these days, because most of the pushback I've ever gotten has been from like older dudes. Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, it never got any better than Led fucking Zeppelin. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, maybe. But yeah, so like, I think it's a lot easier to latch onto that than to develop your own personality. You don't have a lot of life experience yet. You haven't, enough things haven't happened to you for you to really have carved out who you actually are and what you actually think. But you can listen to one band and then listen to another band, and you can say which one's heavier or which one's more brutal. That's why there's so many like bearded glasses dudes out there that are all professional music reviewers. It's me.
Do they?
Yeah.
How many blast beats per second are in this song? That makes it heavier.
Oh man. Speaking of how many blast beats are in this song, so I had this is so on point, it's ridiculous. If you guys have ever had the pleasure of seeing Dream Theater live,
I have.
Half the show is the guy you're sitting next to in the audience, because that, oh boy, it's just like you'll be sitting there, this guy's watching him, and he's like, oh, John Petrucci, he ghosted that B flat in the 54th bar right there. Like, or when I saw them in Philadelphia back in like 1991, he played that with more like emotion. I feel like now it's just like, he's kind of phoning it in. I'm like, motherfucker, this guy's playing 20 notes a second on guitar. I'm sitting there like screaming like a little kid, and you're like, oh yeah, since he got that endorsement with Ernie Ball, it's just, his tone's been just off. It's like,
oh my God, shut up, I'm watching the show.
I'm sitting there like thinking to myself, like, Jesus Christ, like this guy is like, one of the reasons I started playing guitar, I'm having a hell of a time, like a little kid just screeching, in the front row. And the guy next to me is wondering about why he played the wrong fucking like cadence on a B flat. That prog metal, near to my heart. Love it. Yep. Right. I'm all about it. Horrible fan base. Oh my Lord. Gatekeepers, like music snobs.
There's this point at which, like, I think anybody who is who identifies with a certain like sect of metal, there's a point at which people stop talking about the joy and the fun and listening to this music, and they just start
dreadful
turning into assholes.
It's like work.
Yeah,
they turn into work. It's like two fucking like analysts. It's like watching John Madden highlights. Like when he's writing on the fucking board, and he's just like, yeah, they did this. It's like, but like, just watch the fucking game, dude. Like, just enjoy it. You're turning it into a second job, and it's just awful.
I mean, yeah, it is, but it does become work, especially when you're like, yeah, I'm going to listen to 14 records this week. And then,
you did that to yourself, Dan and Joe.
And then a bunch of assholes are like, yeah, but those Andrew WK records though, right? and I've got to somehow just like suffer
you had
through
a hard
that.
time with that. That blew my mind when you're like, oh, I got to suffer through Andrew WK. I was like, you got to suffer through the fucking Party King? Like, okay.
Do I look like I party?
Dude, there's a video of him. He rolls out on stage in a wheelchair. He broke both his fucking legs, and he gets on the edge of the stage in that wheelchair. And he goes, I have 2 broken legs, and I'm still gonna party. And he just starts bringing it in the wheelchair, and you're like, oh, I gotta suffer through this. Like, come on now, Party King.
Dan doesn't like to have fun sometimes.
I don't. And that's why I wanted to have this discussion though, because like, I feel like you guys are all like, the higher beings, and you guys have largely gotten over this. I struggle with this still sometimes, not to have that knee-jerk reaction to everything, and I think honestly our crowning achievement was that Limp Bizkit episode where I actually listened to Limp Bizkit for what it was and didn't compare it to anything else. And I was like, Freddie D's not wrong about this lyrical topic. And that riff that I just heard was fire. And this is actually really enjoyable. So like you can sort of break out of it,
Well, I think Michael was saying in the comments, he says, trying to explain how real breakdowns were to technical riff solos and fans in the early 2000s was the worst. Like it always becomes this discussion too of technical ability. It's not just heavy, but is it good? And like this band is better than another. And really, it like I have to give all music that's recorded at some point its due and just say, yeah, you know what? These guys and girls know a thing or two. Like they're doing a thing well enough to be recorded or to record themselves and to find a popularity. Even so, so at some point I'm like, who the fuck am I to sit here and say, well, this guy doesn't have any classical or jazz training on the drums. Well, he's just a piece of shit. And here I am. You give me like a baby toy drum set. And I wouldn't know how the hell to hit a hi-hat. So like, it just, yeah.
You guys play all that.
Well,
you play all that headbanger shit. You only play one note on the guitar.
Let me pose this question.
Is Gent good?
Yeah.
Well, let's pose a question. I want to pose a question to you guys then. What if I was sitting here right now and I was eating a very delicious red juicy apple right here on screen, right? And then whenever I got done, I was like, guys, that was the best goddamn orange I've ever had in my life. Would you guys be like, you know what, guys, whatever Dan wants to call it, whatever he thinks that, like, does there come a point where you feel like what somebody's saying is objectively incorrect?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't be the judge of that. Perhaps there was a point where I had the ego where I could be, but as someone who is no longer a musician or doesn't really understand music, I just know it sounds good, right? And I listened to a lot of shit back in the day. It didn't sound good, but I listened to it because it was heavy.
I think it depends what quantity of that genre, or you brought up food, Dan, when you've applied an expectation to a specific food item or a brand, you feel like you can speak with authority. Now, I've heard it said you shouldn't complain about music because everybody likes what they like. I think you can objectively say that a melody is not interesting or trash, or lyrics are trash, the message is garbage. You can say those things once you've consumed enough of it to become an expert, or at least you feel like an authority on the subject. If you've sat down and listened to every Metallica album, every Megadeth album, every Judas Priest, eventually you're going to feel like an authority on thrash.
Oh, it just flared up again. I was like, Judas Priest isn't thrash, Joe.
I love when he does that.
I'll admit my blood pressure spiked a little bit there on that. I mean, you know what? I used to be terrible about calling that shit out too. And what it boils down to is know the context, right? If you're having a discussion about music with somebody we should probably clarify on this too. Like disagreeing is not necessarily being elitist or gatekeeping. You're allowed to disagree, right? There's a difference in how you approach it. But if you're having a discussion with somebody about music history and they say something incorrect, maybe call it out. But you know what? You got to ask yourself at a certain point in time, is it worth it? Like, you know what I mean? Is if the guy is if he just misspoke or maybe he doesn't know it, like, why do you care? Like, fuck it, right?
At some point, gatekeeping and elitism just becomes personal ego.
No, it's a dick measuring contest is all it is.
It always becomes ego.
Yeah, 100%.
There's plenty of ego.
Yep.
And I think with metal, there's a certain point where ego becomes part of the experience. And really, that's not exclusive to metal either. There's a point where you feel like everyone around you is on the same level, and ego is not always a bad thing, but it feels like and it looks like a bad thing from the outside in because you have no context. You don't know how many times one person has come up to you with bands that you've never heard and telling you it's the greatest band that they've ever heard. Eventually, you're going to look at that person and say, every band you hear is the greatest band you've ever heard. Come up with a better way to explain it to me. But somebody else looks at that and says, well, you just have a huge ego. You think because you listen to Zayo records that they're the greatest band ever.
But isn't that true? No, but there is sort of well, and that's actually funny because I was discussing that with somebody the other day. They were like, Zayo's your favorite band, so you think they're the best band ever. I was like, I don't think that Zayo is the heaviest band in the world. I don't think that they're the most technical band in the world, but they're my favorite. And that was a big step for me because sometimes you get so into describing things that you like that you make them so much bigger and grander. Everybody's backing me up in the comments. I love this. Thank you, all the true Zayo fans out there.
Hey, you know what? They ripped the veil from your eyes and the trip pants from your ass, right?
I mean, they
got
did
you that
100%.
real metal shit.
Dude, I
just want to hear
Zayo
that voice
is real metal shit.
That's right.
They make it look easy.
Well, like, also, I think about how much space and growth is required from metal fans in general throughout the history of metal to hit what is the most metal. Because, like, you look at something I always think about, and it's literally become a personal joke, as terrible as it is. Like, you can't get more metal than Euronymous eating Dead's brain. Like, that's just metal as shit. And so,
actually, he didn't eat his brain.
No, he didn't. Okay.
That's just an urban legend. Okay.
That bootleg album cover, though, man. There you go.
No, but
he did take pictures. Yes.
Right.
I can't say that he ate the brain.
I mean, it's metal as fuck. Is it disgusting and like a really like terrible thing? Sure. Is it metal as fuck? Yeah, it absolutely is. Like, there you go.
It almost feels like an entire subculture of music has just been chasing the dragon of that picture on that album. Like, we can one day be edgier.
God.
I think there's different types of elitism though, because I feel like what you guys are describing is like the guys that are just like really, really, really up in your face, obvious about it. Like, I want to be more like they're solely. But like, what about like the jaded elitist, right? The guy that just like thinks he knows everything. When people give him suggestions, he doesn't listen to them, and he's just like, you could take it so far, and this kind of swinging back to the Black Dahlia murder thing. It's like you had a guy that made a video that's literally so jaded against metal or so jaded against popular metal. That the day the day a man's death is reported, you're making a video about how you hate that guy's like how you hate that guy's band, how they ruined metal for you. Like not that they existed in their own space and you were allowed to just continue to listen to whatever it is that makes you happy, but they just happen to also exist. But no, it ruined metal for you. And I feel like that is sort of in the age group of the like kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm in my mid 30s, so like that is very much like we had a comment just now. Hardcore just isn't the same anymore, man. There's a lot of that, like, everything's changing, nothing's better. It's not what it used to be, because it's not the thing that I grew up with. Man. Yeah, well, it's not the thing that I grew up with. And it's not the thing that made me feel. And my buddy John Beatty did an interview with Dennis from Refused a couple of years ago, and it was a really, really good interview. And but they were talking about like how everybody loves, The Shape of Punk to Come is one of the best albums. I mean, it's one of my favorite albums. I'll say it. But they're talking about how like when Refused sort of came back and started making music again, people didn't like it as much as the Shape of Punk to Come, because it didn't make them feel the way they felt when they were 17, right? So like some of the first heavy bands I ever heard still sound heavier than everything else because it evokes a feeling in me. And so, Rance, when you say like, "Oh yeah, they're all chasing a dragon," I think they're chasing the nostalgia dragon.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're trying to
100%.
They're trying to recreate. It's kind of like when I play my emulators with CRT filters on, because I want it to be just like it was back when I did. It's that same sort of like I'm trying to chase this feeling, and I reject everything that's not that feeling.
Yeah.
And I reject everyone that has that feeling about not the things that I have that feeling about.
Yeah. Go back to earlier. We talked about it. Back to a time when they had more agency over themselves, or they felt like they had more control, right? In lieu of developing a personality, now you're an adult and you have to like kind of stand on your own merit. So yeah, it's really easy again to go right back down that rabbit hole, that nostalgia train, take it all the way back to like the time when you have the, you make it your personality. You fall back on that because you have no agency and no wherewithal to like stand on your own merit. So yeah, the nostalgia train. I mean, I love it. I mean, I listen to the shit out of like hair metal and stuff like that. And I think it's great because it makes me feel like a badass listening to like stuff I listened to as a kid. But, how far you take that ultimately is kind of like where, there's a fine line you walk there. You can't assert just because I listened to like, Yngwie Malmsteen, that's one of the reasons I started playing guitar. Right. So just because I like him a lot, I'm not going to also come out and say like, oh yeah, it's, all you guys today listen to this other shit. It's just bullshit because Yngwie did it first. It's like, no, like it evokes a cool feeling in me because I think back to when I first started playing, but like, that's as far as I take it. If you go any farther than that, then you're making your personality, like you stake it in someone else's work or in some sort of material thing. And it's just fucked.
It'd be like saying Joe Satriani's the greatest ever because he gave guitar lessons to everybody else that you like. Well, yeah, somebody had to teach guitar lessons at some point and feed themselves because it's hard to make money making music sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Joe, do you mind if I read some comments? Rance, say what you're going to say. And
no, that was actually what I was going to go for. What was just said about people bucking against the idea that the thing they love is now considered old news. I think time moves quickly, and the things we loved when we were a little younger and we were really hitting that nostalgia train, the time feels longer. And now that we've seen so much more time pass by as people who are in our mid 30s, early 40s, like there is almost no time to experience something new again. And so I would even venture to say that I think a lot of my own personal elitism and gatekeeping that I know for a fact that I did, whether it was with metal, whether it was with industrial, there was some point at which I had the time and effort to do that. And I literally don't even have the emotional bandwidth to do that anymore because it is a waste of time and energy. And it's also fucking miserable, right? Like to do that to others. I think if somebody is continuing to espouse these elitist mindsets, that there's just a point in their life, they haven't reached that point yet where they go, wait a second, like it actually doesn't fucking matter this much.
I'm tired of being a miserable bastard, right? Like
never.
Dan will always be a miserable
You're
bastard.
just going to have to me. I'm sorry.
Your time comment, man, that goddamn, that is right on. Like it seems like, back in the day, I'll admit it, man. Like I was a terrible elitist on certain things. Like I made fun of the fucking new metal kids and the trip pants and stuff like relentlessly. Yep. Right. Because again, I lacked a lot of like, I was in the echo chamber. I played, I toured for 10 years. I played hardcore and thrash and stuff like that. And so you don't realize like, when you're that age, especially, but just in general, if you're only around people with common interests, like you're never going to be able to see somebody else's point of view. So when you get a little older now, and I realize that you got to pick your battles. And at the end of the day, no, it's being miserable and being mean like that just fucking sucks. And you limit yourself, especially for me playing guitar. Like a lot of that limits my creativity as well, because I shut myself off to stylistic changes or their viewpoints that can really kind of boost that forward. So yeah, it's at a certain point, it's not worth it to limit yourself.
There was, it's now I almost look at it as like, if I were to do that to like a younger upcoming fan of metal in some capacity, like I'm just poisoning the well. And so poisoning the well. Like this is,
it's a great band, man.
Yeah. God, get these metalcore posers out of here.
I remember distinctly remember that my nephew at one point, who was like 19, was like, he was like super into something like Motionless in White. And there was a moment where I was like, you know what? I'm not going to say it because he gets to enjoy it. Maybe he'll find something that like I would like more than that in the future, or I can guide him to like be invited into something heavy. But that would be so shitty of me to just step in and be like, well, you know what? Here's what I think about that fucking band.
I've also found that like there's more positive ways to sort of impart that knowledge. If you feel like you just have to spread that seed all over somebody, the best thing that you can do is you can make suggestions, but you can't yeah, this is live, right? You can make suggestions, and you can like, because you could take Emotionless in White and be like, oh man, yeah, it's cool that you like that. Some of the bands I liked when I was growing, like you could do that, or you can start a podcast where you decide that you're going to listen to all of metal, or
literally all of it.
Literally all of it, dude. That's what's so funny. Because like I interact with like people like this literally every day, to some degree, right? Like there is a certain level of there's a certain level of like, I can't believe that you guys even listened to and talked about Papa Roach. And it's like, yeah, but like, how am I going to have an opinion? And I think that's where the podcast really kind of comes into play here. I can't have an opinion about something if I don't hear it.
Right.
Or I don't at least listen to it. And like, because like even bands like famously, I was really, really, really gatekeepy about Ghost and people that like Ghost. And I still don't love Ghost's music, but for some reason I felt the need to let everybody know that, even though they didn't ask, right? And always make fun of it because it's the makeup and it's gimmicky, and like I think it's valid for me to have that opinion, but only like maybe only if asked, right?
So what I also wonder too the nature of those gimmicks, right? Because I thought the same thing about something like Slipknot, but yet I also turn right around and I was a huge Gwar fan. So like at some point, even the gimmicks themselves were either heavier or more metal, and that there was some distinction there.
One is arguably better musically, Rance.
Yeah, I know Gwar is. No.
All right. Well, it's great having you on tonight, Rance. We'll call you.
Rance.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I remember my brother, like, because my brother was like gatekeepy too back in the day, and he actually got invited by a friend to go see Slipknot, and it was kind of like a joke to go do that because he was like, oh yeah, these guys, right? And so he came back and he said while the crowd around me, the whole show smelled like the inside of a lit cigarette, the music was surprisingly good. And so it's just, again, you can choose to shut yourself off from stuff and not be better because of it. You know what I mean? Or you could actually jump in there and and you know what? Say it's just fucking terrible, right? Say it's just abysmal. They're super bad, at the very least, you're out with your buddies, like having a beer and watching something that's better than sitting down by yourself, right? So just take the moment for what it is, right?
And live music matters. Yeah, I don't care how much you hate it. Live music matters. Yep. I might not buy the record. I might not listen to the radio. I might hit skip if that song comes up. But if it's live, it's a completely different conversation. Are they pulling it off, or is it entertaining? Because music is supposed to be entertaining.
It's a show.
And you see a band like about to get kicked off the show. You see a band like Shinedown, right? Like these guys they're on stage absolutely killing it. I might not like it, or I might not think I like it, right? But there's an energy that's present in that space, and that's what live music is there for. Everybody got silent.
It's fun to do. And I agree with you, man. It's something fun to do. Yeah. Go support live music. It's someone's livelihood. Someone put a lot of thought and a lot of practice and talent most of the time into it, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a show. You're not going to watch, you don't say, oh, yeah, I'm going to go watch some music tonight. You're going to see a show. So there's a degree of spectacle and a degree of like interactivity at live music that it makes it something special.
And it can actually open your senses to a band that you didn't give the time of day to. It's happened to me 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
Shine Down filled up your senses, Joe.
Breaking Benjamin filled up my
like
senses.
a night in the forest.
Well, yeah, I mean, and like we just got that comment from Jetta PA saying, I like the fact that you guys don't stick strictly to metal for your shows. And I think the fun part about that for us is like, because dude, if you could be a fly on the wall for some of those early discography discussion episodes where you'd be all like, I don't really think we can talk about this band because I really don't think that it's metal enough. And that actually wasn't me being an elitist as much as it was like me not wanting to have to deal with the elitists, as a result of it. And then Joe always comes in with his famous wisdom of being like, have you tried not giving a fuck? And that's kind of our whole sort of thing. And it's fun to take what I've learned about metal and music in general, like metal and rock and all of that. I've learned to look at music in a way, because I mean, how many times have we started off talking about a band that like I will go into it, I will start to put my headphones on and be like, I cannot wait to tear these guys apart. And then I listen to it and I'm like, actually really like, I kind of dig that. I like what they did here. This is actually extremely technical guitar and drum work for a rock band that's not playing heavy music. Like it's almost like too over the top in a way.
I've been saying it for decades. Chad Kent is the man.
Yeah, I mean, so you've got situations like that. Like, I feel like when you close yourself off to other things, that eventually you end up kind of with this like skewed view of everything else around you. Because as we've already discussed, you've got nostalgia, you've got emotions attached to it. You've got actual pieces of your life that you associate with specific bands and songs. And I guess what I'm trying to say is like I understand the elitist to a certain degree because I am him. We
were all, whether we were.
I'll own it. I was. Jesus,
absolutely. There was no other reason that I went to all those shitty shows because I wanted to find the next thing that I could talk about that nobody else would hear about.
Dude, because $10, that's why I went to a lot of shows.
Yeah.
$10 only.
Something to do on a Friday night.
That's the ultimate game of the music fan, though. You're looking for that band that no one, including the people that told you about all those other bands that you've heard, you're looking for that diamond that they haven't found.
Yep.
And I remember way back when Dan's subliminal goal was, I don't just want to find good bands, but I want to find good Christian bands, because he wanted to prove that there was good music out there that no one was paying attention to, because just calling the band Christian was the ultimate put off for most people. And time has shown that if you like heavy bands, there's good ones out there. There's a lot of bad music in all genres. Some of the worst bands, some of the worst music I've ever heard is some of the most entertaining music to me, because on one hand, that's the best you got. On the other hand, I don't care if this is the best or worst that you've got. There's something here that just works and is entertaining to me. I found a random CD at a Guitar Center with my old drummer and bass player, and if I could ever find the person who left it there, I only have one question. Was this a joke? I have to know. I almost want to put it on the internet just to say, whoever you are, is it a joke? Because if you're serious, this is awesome.
That's, yeah, man. I mean, that's like next level Andy Kaufman shit, right? Like when you can't tell, like, is this for real or is this not? It just blurs the line.
Stay tuned after the show, Mike. I'll take care of it for you.
Yeah, dude. It's like, when I found Melt Banana, right, I was both like just like disgusted but intrigued by it. I was like, okay, like I get what they're doing here. It's this small Japanese woman just screeching to blast beats and stuff like that. But I mean, it's there. There's fans.
Repulsed and aroused. Yeah.
Yeah. I had like, I don't know how I felt. I was just confused. It was like, again, like we would kind of just beaten this horse to death, but like just let it be, right? It's there. Somebody likes it. Somebody made it. Let's just let it be.
Well, and also, Dan, you were saying earlier, like you talked a lot about like finding this personal retribution and like this is who I was or maybe who I am.
Yeah.
But I mean, truth be told, doing something like this podcast, everybody has that moment where their eyes are open to the futility of being a gatekeeper or an elitist. I can't say that I'm entirely over it yet. I can identify spaces in my life and in my listening and in my consumption of music and any other media where I'm like, yeah, I actually don't care to be a dickhead about that anymore. But you know, like, so even, you know, doing something like this podcast, what you've probably done is there's probably people out there who you've also helped pull away from their elitism with this and gone, you know what, if discography discussion is listening to this and like talking objectively about it, then damn, why the hell can't I?
Yeah, I mean, and like it's like looking into
it's a service you've done to people.
I guess I like
don't say service, Rance, or I'm going to say content creation.
I love servicing people.
Content creators.
But yeah, I create a lot of content after I have a lot of tacos.
Guys will say, man, I created some content earlier.
Content is coming. Oh,
that's the real content shit.
Courtesy of Buffalo Wild Wings made some content.
But it was also like looking into a mirror, right? Because basically, like, imagine putting your voice and opinion out there to be scrutinized, right? And then basically 15-year-old you starts emailing you. And picking apart every single little word that you say. So like Mike said, like sometimes I misspoke, right? Like we had a dude totally freak out on YouTube because we said a member of a band was in a different band, but we said the wrong band member's name, right?
Son of a bitch. Actually.
Yeah, I mean it was like you or, you know, I don't even know, you know. And like, so just dealing with a lot of that. Of course, then there was all the post Pantera episode death threats, and you know, all of that. It was a joke, people. It's fine. We were just having a good time. But yeah, I think that it does sort of give you. It's like you almost have to credibility. I think is the word that we haven't really used yet. That I think people are always looking for in bands. Does this band have any credibility? And for some people, everybody agrees that your favorite artist should have credibility, but nobody can actually agree on what that means.
Sure.
You know, so for some people,
so we just replace it by saying, well, are they more metal?
Yeah, it's subjective. It's impossible to quantify at a like a level that because it means something different to somebody else, right?
Yeah, like some people are like, no, I don't want to listen to a band that has a full length album. Like I've met people like only EPs only. Albums are just bloat. You know, I definitely feel that way though when your band has like 12 fucking albums. But like, you know, they're like, oh, it's all bloat and it's all this or people like, okay, well, it doesn't have any credibility if they like sell it to people. You know, or if they make any profit off of their tour, their album sales, they should be doing it. They should be doing it for the catharsis of the art. You know, like people can go money. That far up their own ass to have opinions like that.
I like being able to buy food and eat it and not die.
Would you
don't lie though? You guys like when all the neckbeards come out of the woodwork and start arguing with you, right? You have to love doing that. I would get off on that.
If he's having a good day, he doesn't hate it.
I'd be like, I'd love it, man. Just, you know, the actually crowd and oh boy, that would make me giggle.
Would you say that there is a different shift in like elitism or gatekeeping in general, maybe more or less, based on the fact that now we basically have all this music at our fucking fingertips at every second of the day, that like it's not there's almost no effort in discovering more music? Not saying that's a good thing, but like you had to go out of your way early 2000s, late 1990s to find music
stores.
And music. Hell, you go to see a band live. You're like, I don't even know who the fuck that band was. I got to find out who it is. Dude, but now it's all over, right? It's so easy to find anything.
Nothing better than New Release Tuesday with $7 band you've never heard of purchases. Because you walk out of there with 4 of those or 5 of those. Yeah, you might fail with a couple of them, but 3 of them are going to be solid gold.
I think it's less, honestly, Rance.
Yeah, I
feel like
too.
Kids today. you know, like I didn't grow up with the internet. It came about when I was in high school, right? So the search, maybe part of the elitism and part of the gatekeeping came from the fact that you had to actually like truly go out of your way to search for things in that genre. Like, you had to go to music stores, you had to go like listen to radio or try to find people who go to shows or go to live shows. And now everybody's so connected. It's like, and I think it's a huge benefit to metal and to you know, instrumentation, everything in general, because like now you have at your fingertips an entire global community of people who have like a lot of different, you know, value to add to things. And I think we're better because of it. So to me, there's way less of it nowadays.
Real quick, just to jump this. So this is something I actually hadn't even thought about. The comment, it's over on Facebook, but it's a comment from Jeff Gretz, and he says, I'm an elitist in the sense that I embrace music I like because it's good, regardless of whether the zeitgeist says it's acceptable. Perfect examples would be like pre-Cowboys from Hell, Pantera, or Metallica's Lulu, and Melt Banana, as Mike mentioned as well. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say that that's elitism in the same sense as what we're talking. Maybe we should have defined what we meant by elitism, but I think the difference is, though, is like, I think it's okay to enjoy whatever you want to enjoy. I think the big difference is, I think the big difference, though, is like basically making people feel as if they are less than for having a different opinion than you, or you know, I mean, a gentle ribbing is one thing, right? But like, because me and Mike literally do this all day.
Yeah, you're allowed to disagree.
Yeah,
you're allowed to disagree. You're allowed to like something. You're allowed to dislike something, right?
Yeah, elitism lends itself to oftentimes aggressive offense, right? Like just being like choosing to make yourself higher because somebody else's opinion is lower.
Right. And I think it sometimes, if we're talking about like pure enjoyment versus like, I have this list of bands that I have to tell everybody that I'm into so that I can establish, there's that word again, this credibility, you know, and there was a little bit of that too. I remember somebody messaging me when we first started doing live videos, and they're like, you know, you don't really wear enough metal shirts when you're streaming live.
You couldn't read them anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see what kind of shirt you got on tonight. Is it metal enough? You son of a bitch.
It's a lifestyle.
I literally cannot like, I can't make this stuff up, like, because that's something that like I might like say like, oh, somebody jokingly said this, or not, but people like legitimately like, you know, we want to see what bands you like, and I was like, I do a podcast every week talking about what bands that I like, you know, so like I don't know why the visual, but it's like, well, you got to have the credibility, you have to have the look, right? Like, dude, seriously, like whenever I so much as shave my beard and do a video, people are like, oh, you don't look nearly as, you know, as authoritatively metal as you did before. And like it's a small amount of people, but it is interesting to see what everybody's different definition of credibility is.
Yeah. I'm some Jimmy Neutron looking motherfucker, and I listen to metal, I guess. Like,
dude, Jimmy Neutron is so metal.
I put the Zelda shirt on. The last 25 years of my experiences, they just go right out the fucking window, right?
Oh, Mike, Ganon is like the most metal. Didn't you know?
But I think there is some comfort to be found in that elitism. It exists in any like subgenre of music.
It's not there. Exclusive to metal.
Yeah,
it's not even exclusive to music.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. You know, there's always this favoritism that feeds into elitism that leads into gatekeeping, because it is mine and I want it to stay mine, and I want to only let in the people that I think will preserve it. Jesus Christ, that sounds like eugenics, and I hate it.
Charlie, I want somebody to run the chocolate factory the way that I would run the chocolate factory. Right. So I had to systematically kill off all the other children that came out here because they didn't.
That's why I killed the other children, Charlie.
Yeah.
In some
join me, Charlie. Yeah. Like, but yeah, it's just weird to me that you could have so many people, and this is what I think is interesting, because there's a certain like people associate their music listening habits with their individuality. It's very linked. We've kind of been talking about it the whole time. But it's funny how everybody wants to be the independent thinker, and they want to be the person that has the best opinion, and that they can always have that mic drop moment every single time they get into a discussion with somebody that maybe the other person doesn't know is an argument, but you're totally treating it as if it's an argument, and you want to have that final word. And yet so many of these people that I've interacted with, and even when I would interact as sort of the aggressor, you end up just saying the same sort of argument. Like, I think the biggest one is like, oh, drums. Like, we were talking about, like, oh, this person doesn't play fast enough, or this person doesn't play technical enough. And then, like, once somebody plays really fast and technical, then it's like, well, those drums are fucking sequenced, or they're programmed.
Triggers.
You know what I mean? Like, you can always move the goalpost. When you're losing, you can grab the goalpost and just run back in the other direction with it. Dude,
it was always, I mean, this is no exaggeration, trying to find out if a drummer used a speed pedal or not. Like, that was like, every time I found a new band, I was like, dude, this fucking guy better be doing this organically. It better not be using one of them fucking double speed pedals.
Rance, the answer to the question is, I swear to Christ, I'm going to his house. Does this guy listen to Lamb of God? Because if he does,
he's a Budweiser.
He's got longboards.
Dude, Joe, hey, you're not a higher level being, man. I've got so many episodes of you being like, yeah, this is a really great record, but the drums are totally fucking fake. Like all the time. Like,
I'm not wrong.
People are gonna hear this and like go back and listen to our old episodes and be like, these guys are acting like they've somehow grown out of this. But
these guys are fucking the Jesus of metal now.
Yeah, these guys have no credibility.
I mean, we did just can a band and replace it with another band because reasons.
Well, I'll tell you what the reason was. We canned it because it's the same reason why we're not telling that YouTuber's name and linking you to his video. This band that we were talking about, I got 3 albums in. He started talking about fucking underage girls, and I was like, I'm done. You know what I mean? Like straight up, I'm done. I'm not.
No. He kept talking about it.
I wouldn't know because I was done. But it's like, yeah. Well, it's funny because I was like, should we just like have like this big like fake meltdown and then just cut the episode mid? And it's like, no, fuck it. Let's just go listen to something that we like and talk about it and it be okay, you know?
Well, that is just, and see that then that topic comes down to, that is literally objectively bad in a moral sense, and even like the most base level human morality.
Well, yeah, but like in metal, though, or in metal, the band I'm talking about wasn't even really
metal.
Like,
yeah, let me just go burn a church. I'll be right back.
No. Yeah, well, but seriously though, like, you could, obviously the lyrics of Cannibal Corpse are quote unquote morally wrong, right? So why is it okay for entrails ripped from a virgin's, word I can't say on YouTube, right? And and like, how is that okay? But then this other band, is talking about literally fucking a underage girl and admitting at the end, oh, I forgot to check that bitch's ID. Well, and all that.
A part of that comes down like the obvious satire of it too. Like, Cannibal Corpse in a way is just a joke you can hold in your hand. I mean, I think so anyway. Like,
those guys are all fucking posers because they haven't even killed anybody.
All Corpse Grinder cares about is playing World of Warcraft. That's the only fucking thing that guy cares about.
No.
He doesn't play Dota 2?
Corpse Grinder loves to get, he loves claw machines. Getting stuffed animals out of claw machines and giving them to his kids.
He would, at one point, like, there's a YouTube series, or maybe it's just one video of him going bargain shopping. He's like, I've got all these coupons. I'm going to Target and I'm going to get some bargains. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah. But I mean, there's a lot of people, this is not metal. Why is he doing this? It's just, it's so direct sometimes. And I think the best part is, like, so when I'm watching this fuck faces video earlier about the Black Dahlia murder, I'm like, wait a minute. So first he's talking about Trevor and all this stuff, but then he's like saying a lot of like, and they just took the most boring parts of metal and it's metalcore based, and he's kind of giving the camera this look of like, you guys know what I mean though, right? Right. So that like that's like well no, but like that's like his like mating call.
Yeah.
For all the people that are watching that are like him. And
the neckbeards, dude, here they come.
Well, I mean,
hey, the beard's in your heart. If you're a neckbeard, right? Not on your face. It's about the beard in your heart.
All right. I was gonna say, I mean, I can't really say a whole lot because I'm kind of one of them, to a certain degree. But like, it is weird how there's this like, you guys understand what I mean? And I found it really ironic that he was like trying to have this sort of like, I'm going to reach out to the people like me and I'm going to pull them into kind of what I've got going on. But then he's, mad because Trevor was charismatic and that makes him like Charles Manson. And it's just really weird. And I guess, getting sort of to the point of like, how far is too far? How far is too far is when you literally have such a hatred for metalcore or melodic death metal, or it could be anything. It could be fucking polka. I don't care. But like, you hate something enough to criticize a man's death in order to further your gospel of like what true metal is. Right?
Yeah. He's a spineless pussy who wants validation from somebody else. There you go. That's what it was. It was validation quest. I mean, if I look like a dick with ears living in my mom's basement, I'd probably do the same thing, right? So.
Fair enough.
I mean, that scene in Karate Kid when Johnny's like, the enemy deserves no mercy. And he looks around like, right. You're crazy, man.
I think there's a point at which it is our responsibility as, people who listen to music are also humans. So like we have to identify within ourselves at which point it's actually less metal to be a dickhead. In this case, it would have been, if we're talking about what's metal, it would have been super metal of this guy to be compassionate, thoughtful, even with a band that he might not have liked, but that's like completely outside of the point of this loss of this artist. To means that he clearly can't even understand. I venture to say that Care Bears are more fucking metal than metal. Like, it's just like there's a point at which this elitism and gatekeeping. Oh, hey, Joe, I saw your mouth, Joe. I saw you say no. It just becomes sort of inhumane and unkind.
I mean, it's people who can't separate the fact from the fiction, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it all boils even what we've been talking about this entire time, right? Like, you go to see a show, and so what people don't realize is like the theatrics of it, like. Are simply that. It's not the material fact of how these people are. It's the theatrics they put on to entertain you. So like, let's separate fact from fiction and remember that like these are real human beings we're talking about with their own struggles. They've got their own likes and dislikes, and they're not the theatrics they portray. They're doing it for like your entertainment, right? So let's not make light of something serious and just be an asshole about it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know where to go from there.
Welcome to the internet.
Well, no, I feel like we're. I feel like it's just one of those weird things where if you have to accept on one hand, and I think so. There was a question that I did promise somebody that I would read, and this is shout out to Kyle Stratton if you're still watching. He says, if you haven't gotten to this already, where's the line between being thoughtful and convinced that your opinion is right and being an elitist? It seems that line is a difficult one to maintain. And I think that kind of goes back to whenever I was like, what if I ate an apple in front of you guys and kept referring to it as an orange? Would that bother you? And at what point do you step in and say, hey buddy, it is actually an apple. Just, in case you didn't know that, you sound like a moron, So like, where's the line between like, I don't want Dan to sound dumb in front of all these people, so I should probably just, whisper in his ear and correct him, or do you, go on a giant, crusade of like, you fucking idiot, do you not know what kind of fruit you're eating right now?
Well, Kyle, why are you doing it, right? Are you going to interject to add like value to the discussion and add like a different opinion?
Right.
Are you doing it for self-aggrandizement, right? To make yourself look better or to boost your ego? So there, to me, that's the line, right? Like I said earlier, we can disagree. You're allowed to disagree, like and dislike what you like, but your response to things, like, are you doing it to add value to what you're talking about, or are you doing it to make yourself look good and to inflate your ego? That's the line, really.
I think there is a point at which too we have to like take every circumstance in which we could be either a thoughtful person or an elitist. Like, we have to be able to just recognize those circumstances within ourselves. Just like the Apple thing, like okay, if we want to look at it and say, well, I mean, objectively, you would be wrong because an orange is this. But that can't apply to music, I don't think.
I think it can to a certain degree. Yeah, I mean, okay, so here's something we haven't talked about yet. So we still got a few minutes left. The genre police.
Yeah.
To a certain degree.
Excuse me, sir. I'm the genre police.
Joe, Priest isn't thrash.
You're impersonating the genre police because we all know that I am the genre police and I'm the only one who's right. So for a while there we had this big sticking issue where we would get a genre wrong or we wouldn't know how to describe something because see metal is unique in the sense that there are like you have heavy metal, thrash metal, death metal, black metal, grindcore, blackened death metal, brutal technical death metal, or technical brutal death metal. And if you don't know the difference between technical brutal death metal and brutal technical death metal, then just unsubscribe, right? There's a lot of.
How did you skip doom metal?
Oh, doom metal's in there too. Are we talking traditional doom metal, epic doom metal, funeral doom metal, drone doom metal? Like, I mean, you can go. I think there actually is like a metal iceberg. Yeah, harsh noise. Yeah, gore grind. Is one of my favorites.
Porno grind.
Porno grind, even better. Yeah, like I mean, it just goes and goes and goes. And I think that it leads to elitism in a certain sense, but like this really is the closest to this sort of apple orange argument in that like if somebody tells me that Iron Maiden is a death metal band, like it's going to bother me, and I don't know if that makes me a bad person or not. I mean, again, if you go back and listen to the episodes of the podcast, there's times where I absolutely will just correct Joe mid sentence on a genre name, and to Joe, I'm not doing it to be a dick, but if I'm just talking to a random person right now, like if I, like Clank's watching, we appreciate you, Clank. We love you, Clank. Everybody buy Clank's new album. It's amazing. It's really, really good.
Hi, Clank.
Hi, Clank.
Change the channel and I'll break your fingers.
There he is. We have sound bites. No, Clank goes, the elitist in me says that Trouble is the ultimate doom band. He's not exactly wrong on that. Trouble is an amazing doom band. But but if you're calling a band like, or like calling a genre name, pronouncing it wrong, like me and Joe had this like gent versus degent argument for the longest time, and I'm like, I'm like, stop calling it degent. You sound like a damn moron, And then he'd go like, who fucking cares? It's a stupid name for a genre anyway, and I can't really argue with that either. So he's like, I'm just gonna say a stupid genre name a stupid way so that everybody knows that it's stupid. I'm like, dude, we got elitists out here that are listening to our shit. They're just going to think you're wrong. They're not going to hear the subtle satire that you're throwing on. Cause he started doing it like really like degent, like just like really like just to piss him off or just to piss me off. I don't know. It worked, I think, in both cases.
The end of the story is he just gave me $50 and said, please stop.
But I am going to say that like loving correction is okay.
Yeah, having a proper rapport with somebody as a human communicator is where it comes down to. You and Joe, you can correct each other day in and day out, right? Because you know each other, you know where you can sort of jostle each other. If a kid comes up to me, right, as somebody who works in education, and a kid happens to want to try to find some kind of like connection with me, and it happened earlier this year, a kid is like, "Oh man, I just discovered Slipknot. They're that's metal." And I'm like, yeah. Like there's man, younger me would have been like, what are you, some kind of little shit? What are you talking about? But like, that's not my place to lovingly correct anything, right? I could go certainly categorization and talk about genre, but it's like, hey, you know what? If right now this is metal to this kid and this opens up their eyes to like something down the line, thumbs up. So it just comes down to me needing to identify when is the right time to provide that correction, and is this gonna like shut down someone's perspective and turn me into a dickhead when I do that, or not?
Yeah, or is it going to just turn them off to the genre entirely?
Yeah. Well, that Jimmy Neutron looking motherfucker came up to me and told me I was wrong.
For some reason, he told me that I could only listen to Slayer and only play Doom. I don't know what happened.
Oh my God.
Doomslayer. You see what I did there? There's always
you dad joked your way out there, man. That was worse than mine.
Hey man, I got sleeping children upstairs. I literally don't have any control over it anymore. I just make the dad jokes and move on.
I've lost control of my life.
Yeah, I do like what you said there too, Mike. But like context matters with that.
Yeah,
right? It just does. We have to be able to identify context when we're communicating our love of music or even sharing our dislike of music.
Yeah, and I think that's difficult too, especially like with what we do on the podcast. We get a lot of like, had angry comments like we did a Malevolent Creation episode. We didn't really, we like some of it, and a lot of our episodes are like that. A lot of people like to categorize where this one was really negative, this one's really positive, but the reality is most of the time it's kind of a mixed bag. There are things that I really will like and go on and on about how much I like it. And then there's things that I dislike and will go on for even longer about why I don't like it. And we had a guy get really upset. He's like, "You didn't give this band the respect that they deserve," or this or that. So it's like dealing with that sort of elitism as well. Of like, because somebody likes it, I'm not allowed to dislike it.
This is a subjective review show. Like, it's subjective, my man. Like, hey, get over it, right? That's
the entire reason you listen to the podcast is to hear one, two, three, or four people's opinion about a band.
It's subjective.
Who have spent the entire week or longer listening to every album that band has released. That's what we do.
Why did we do this to ourselves?
Somebody had an idea for a podcast.
We're in it too deep now to quit, but it's just like, I really wish we'd have just done like one album per episode. We could have called it The Deepest Dive. This is a free podcast idea for everybody out there. Do The Deepest Dive, where like you talk about one song for an hour.
But you actually have to go underwater to listen to it the way whales would.
Ooh, that's even better.
A little bit of a Metalocalypse reference there for you.
Yeah, I mean, I like Gojira too, though. There's some whale songs in there.
Well, and I think like I was actually, as we're talking about this, like the conversation about elitism and gatekeeping, like I look at something like Metalocalypse as a really interesting commentary on this, because that show's bread and butter is elitism. And there's
absolutely
a satire of gatekeeping. It's every character in that show is typecast of a genre, and it 100% is a satire of gatekeeping and elitism.
And that also makes it metal as shit.
This is metal for fish.
Modern.
Fish don't got no good metal to listen to.
I'm going to go eat at Burzum Burger. I'll be back.
Oh my God. They shop at Ingram's, the grocery store.
He puts his face through the...
Dude, I had a really interesting time period in my life. I had a really interesting time period in my life where I like knew and talked to regularly on the phone Dave Ingram. And that dude's fucking crazy. So he was signed to the same. He had a band called Downlord that was like they were not popular because like his big claim to fame was that he was in Benediction and Bolt Thrower and Don't At Me if those aren't the bands that he was in.
But he was also in Milnor was another band. I don't know.
Or Do, yeah. But yeah, like this he would always like call me up. And because like we were a Christian band on on this label that he was on, and for some reason he just liked to talk and like have these like deep, because he was like a hardcore like Satanist or atheist. I mean, he wasn't like some theistic like let's sacrifice some shit to the fucking goat or anything like that. But like he liked to have those deep philosophical discussions. But then like we'd be done talking about religion. Because, of course, at that age, I was like trying to save his soul, right? So we had all that going on. And he would just call me and be all like, did you hear the new album by this band? Yeah. Isn't it just fucking shit? And I'm like, it's a lot better than your album, Dave.
Now, is he crazy just like he's kind of
he's fun crazy. He's fun crazy.
Or is he crazy like the globalists, like Alex Jones crazy? Like
no, he's fun crazy.
Okay.
He's fun crazy. But yeah, all good. But yeah, that was such a long time. It feels like a different lifetime. But
I'm looking for that studio video now.
Right. Well, I guess that's kind of it, guy. We can't really go over much more without beating a dead horse.
Leave Bojack alone.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't be a dick.
Yeah, don't be a dick.
Just stop being a dick.
And if you're still being a
don't be
dick,
dicks.
just if you can be a dick one less time this year, you're doing great. I believe in you.
Yes, thank you, Rance. Oh, you're talking to everyone. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. You just looking into my eyes, and I'm like, we had a real connection there. I was downloading everything he was uploading.
I got you, man. I got you.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching and listening and commenting. We had a lot of comments on Facebook that I didn't get to. I still haven't figured this out with StreamYard yet, how I can get the Facebook comments to show up in our feed. So I've got Facebook pulled up in one window. So you guys kept seeing me look away the entire time. It's because I'm trying to read these comments that are coming up on both sides. So, but yeah, I appreciate all of you guys. We will be back next month. Me and Joe for sure. Mike, maybe. Rance, maybe. We're all adults and it's hard to get together all the time, but, we love you guys, and we will see you guys next time. If you guys want to hear more discussions like this, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, and on your favorite podcasting app, you can search for Discography Discussion, and we will come up, and you can subscribe, and you can hear literally hundreds of hours of us talking about shit like this.
Presented by discussmetal.com.
Easy listening.
$1 at a time.